None. All right. Raw was a very good show, although there were some slow moments there at points, particularly in JBL's match, which did not need to go nearly as long as it did, but we shall skip to that soon. Santino was mad about his injured balls, and he was so mad. Talk about dwelling. This is the new MatPat 11 is Santino. He was so angry and bitter and dwelling on this that he was going to reveal to the world a great secret about Santa. And then, of course, Cena walked up and said, "No, you're not," and buried him. So Santino got mad and challenged Cena and a diva of his choice to a mixed tag later. And they did some comedy with Goldust, which was not funny, but the people still laughed. And then Santino said after he won, he was going to reveal the secret anyway. That was that.
I did laugh when Goldust, upon discovering he cannot be the tag team partner because he lacked ovaries, and his response was to say, "Rats." Then he walked away, and Dustin Rhodes put on his rubber suit and his makeup for this 10-second appearance.
Yep.
That has to suck.
Kane and Kelly came out. Kane did a promo saying that he had been asked kindly by Stephanie to please apologize to Kelly for stalking her last week. And when you think of all the horrible things, Randy Orton didn't have to apologize to Big Dave for giving him a concussion kick and putting him out of action until August.
Nope.
Seriously now. But Kelly needed to be apologized to. And shouldn't Miz be given the apology?
That's also an excellent point.
Shouldn't Kelly have to apologize to Miz? So anyway, this was stupid. But he apologized and said someday she would regret not telling him who the real boyfriend was. So it's an ongoing mystery here. And
who's boning Kelly?
Who is fucking Kelly? Kane and HBK had a Race to the Rumble match, which was a fine little match right here. I actually expected this to be bad, and it was not. It was fine. And they did a little match, and Shawn hit the super kick and got the pin, and he is now going on to the Fatal 4-Way. You see, there are 4 matches, and the winners are going on to a Fatal 4-Way, and then the winner of that faces Randy Orton at the pay-per-view.
Or John Cena.
Or John Cena, whoever's the champion, whatever. See, I'm confused already. But the point is, for those people that are freaking out about my not understanding this match last week, and one person has been dwelling on this for over a week, and he's actually typed out exactly what Stephanie said to prove that it's not confusing. And he doesn't realize that the confusing aspect of the promo was the fact that she never bothered to say who was involved. I felt that was a key aspect to this tournament, to name the participants. Apparently this man didn't care. When she said all the former champions on Raw, Kofi Kingston?
Beth
Nikki? Phoenix? What the fuck does this mean? That, in fact, is a state of confusion. So, anyway, that is the way that this is going to go. And the only other thing I have to say about this is, this was a good Raw because there were a lot of big matches. There was a lot of good wrestling. The Jericho and Punk match in particular was very good. But I shouldn't complain, but I'm going to complain. It's not even really a complaint. It's just an observation. They're talking about how, man, 4 big matches featuring the stars on this show tonight. And a big Fatal 4-Way involving the winners next week. And I sat there and I thought, if all these matches are so big, why should I be paying for the next pay-per-view? Why is that match so much bigger? Why is that match bigger than the 4 matches I saw tonight and the Fatal 4-Way that I see next week? And the answer is that the title's on the line. Now, if this is how you're going to sell pay-per-views, title matches, then the entire company should be built around your titles. That is not the case here. They're the only reason, really, to buy the Royal Rumble, for example, is
there's the Royal Rumble. Yeah.
But, I mean, for your average B show, if you're wondering why the shows are diminishing in buy rates with each passing year, they're not tanking or anything like that, but they're certainly not doing the numbers they've done in years past, and I think this is part of the reason. Why would you need to buy Armageddon?
Oh, you wouldn't.
Why would you need to buy Survivor Series? Why would you need to buy No Mercy? The only reason you would want to buy these is if you're such a big fan that you've got to see as much WWE wrestling as you can get your hands on. There's very little reason to actually buy these shows.
Well, that's all true. Yes, the answer, Brian, as to why you should buy the Rumble at the end of all this is because all this work they're doing, you see, is to qualify for that match. Now, that argument may not sell you, but it's there. As for Shawn and Kane,
I realize that, but the point I'm trying to make is they're fighting for a title match, And nobody gives a shit about the title.
For a title you don't care about.
So, yeah, that's the issue.
Yes. As for Shawn and Kane, it was the very definition of a professional wrestling match. It was just two veteran guys who know what to do and did exactly what they had to do to get the reaction they wanted from the fans, and Shawn won, and then it was over. Completely forgettable.
Showed a video package of Orton punting Big Dave, and another thing here. I now nitpick everything after watching so much Impact, but the announcers are like, I hope Dave is available. I hope Dave is able to wrestle here tonight.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, so let me get this straight. The announcers in WWE are unaware if, for example, Dave is even in the building.
Right. Well, no one apparently knew about Dave's condition until right before his bell time.
And the first person to alert us that Dave was not there was the ring announcer. The ring announcer is more in the know than Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler, apparently.
Yeah. Well, not to mention, Saturday night I watched a show on which I was told was a live show. They indicated, hey, here's Jeff Hardy. He's the WWE champion. Dave Batista wrestled on that show.
Well, oops.
And in fact, the first thing he did was lock up with Randy Orton.
Oops.
So, yeah, they should have just said that was a tape show. But we'll talk about that later.
So, anyway, then we had the video package of Orton punting Dave, as I noted. Then we had Manny versus Manu. Manny should actually be his name. Manu versus Kofi. And Manu has been wrestling since he was 18, a young teen, in fact. And he's quite great. And Kofi has had good days, and this was not one of them. He was out of position. He was slipping on things. And then he got the pin with a crucifix. The wrong man won here.
That's for sure. Yes, this was perhaps Kofi's first off night I've ever seen, but he was off. And Manu is great, and it was very short, and Kofi won. I was just impressed that here's Manu, and I realize his gimmick is not that he's a wild Samoan, he's just the son of a wild Samoan, but here he comes with his long flowing hair and his tribal tattoos, and he's announced as from Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania.
Hell, you know.
That's awesome.
It's 2008 now. Then we had the meeting between Deuce Shade, who's apparently Sim Snuka, I believe.
I think his name was Sim, yes.
Sim. Like Sim City, or whatever that video game was from
awesome.
25 years ago.
He's constantly building roads and highways.
So Sim City here was trying to get recruited into whatever this group is called, Priceless, and Orton didn't even want to talk to Manu after his failure, and then said, well, maybe we do need a new member. And I thought to myself, why would these men want to be in this unit with such a dick? What has this got them? It hasn't even gotten them the tag team titles.
No, he's I don't know. So they have a respect for him for some reason. And I base that purely on the first promo where they mentioned it.
We had another DX commercial, and they prefaced it by saying that Shawn had shot them all before his financial issues.
Yeah, Michael Cole says that it was shot before Shawn fell on hard times. So I guess this was shot last spring?
Well, you got to prepare in advance.
Or did Shawn have a bad weekend and lost all his money?
May have had just a shitty weekend. Well, if it coincides with the fall of the stock market, these would have had to have been taped in September. Literally.
Yeah.
If you're going by realism here. So then we had Punk meeting with Hunter, and they are trying so damn hard to make this work, to make this make sense. And it still doesn't, but I got to give him credit for trying. Hunter's like, why didn't you come to me? And Shawn's like, well, I didn't want to borrow from you. And Hunter's like, so you wouldn't borrow from me, but you'll work for JBL? And Shawn's like, I know what I'm doing. I've got to do this on my own terms. And Hunter said, for your sake, I hope you know what you're doing. And then Shawn muttered, me too.
Yes, there's a great performance by both men. Hunter pointed out, this is all about your stupid pride. And Shawn basically said, yeah. But he asked Hunter to back off, and he said, I got myself into this mess, and I'll get myself out. And he was very concerned and forlorn at the end. And this is all very good. And I still most likely at the beginning, when it was just Shawn and Punk was telling Shawn about his time in Iraq and shooting stuff and blowing it up and how cool it was. And Shawn said, in this exact tone of voice, that sounds like a phenomenal sight. He had enough of CM Punk at that point.
Melina and Michelle against Jillian and Layla. A disaster of a match.
I have no idea what this was.
First off, Melina and Michelle.
Melina and Mickey.
Mickey.
Way too many M's in this company.
Fuck. Melina and Mickey came out, and they did a bunch of piggybacking and hopscotching and leapfrogging.
This was their entrance for Monday Night Raw.
222s, everybody.
That's possible.
Mickey ran wild, and then Layla tossed her off the post to the floor. Now, I do not know for sure, but based on the selling of young Mickey and her weeping, after the match for no discernible reason. And then the weeping of Melina, who had won the match, leads me to believe that Mickey blew out her knee. Now, I don't like to see anybody get hurt. I especially don't like to see girls get hurt. But the amount of sympathy I have for Mickie James is rather low, because why do you take a bump off the post to the floor? You are asking to get hurt.
Nothing good can happen.
I can think off the top of my head of 1,000 ways to get the heat during a match. I could just go on for 5 hours thinking of different ways to get the heat during the match, and not a single one involves jumping off the post to the floor. You're asking to blow out your knee. Not to mention the fact that her fucking tag team partner, who just returned, she just returned like a month ago or less, was out for an extended period of time because she fucking took a bump off the post to the floor and blew out her ankle. Why do this?
I don't know.
For Christ's sake,
I don't
stop.
know. And it was actually even worse because she obviously came down out of control. And at first, it looked like her shoulders were not above her feet, and I thought she was going to land on her back. And thankfully, she at least managed to get her feet under her, although apparently not very well. So, they kept wrestling. And God bless Mickie. I hope she's healthy. But when she crashed and burned, her thong came out, and I was distracted for the rest of the time she was in there.
And that happened. And then Melina made a comeback, and it was horrible. And then she botched a spot to the. Usually when you see a botched spot, you're like, I know what they were trying to do. Not in this case. No idea what they were trying to do.
She and Jillian tried something, and it failed, and they moved on.
And then they broke up a bunch of pins, like way too many. And then finally it ended when Melina pinned somebody with a code red, doesn't matter. But the point was, this was 2 thumbs down.
And I watched this all, it was sloppy and out of control and dangerous. I thought, Jesus Christ, what the hell was that? And then I looked at the ring, and the 2 victorious women were, in fact, weeping.
Crying.
Literally crying. Tears were coming down their face. And I thought, something went awry there.
Yes. So I hope Mickie is okay, but everybody in this business, listen to me. Stop going off the post to the floor. I'm trying to think of something you could do instead that would be equally dangerous. Ride a motorcycle without a helmet on ice.
Drive in Seattle, yes.
Drive in Seattle. Get a bus and go down to Seattle.
Take a bus in Seattle, yes.
Jesus. Then we had Rey and JBL in a race to the Rumble. Match was fine, but went way too long. People chanted, "You can't wrestle" at JBL. Rey did a big comeback and finally set up for the 619, but Shawn ran down and dragged JBL to safety, then slapped him across the face. So the ref called for the bell and ruled that JBL had won via outside interference. So now we have Shawn and JBL advancing. So maybe in the match, JBL will command Shawn to lay down for him. I do not know.
That's the finish I predict, actually. But yeah,
that would be lame.
Well, I'm just saying that's what I predict. It's... The best part of this was Shawn, he pulled JBL out, and JBL had been getting his ass kicked, so he was kind of out of it and selling, and Shawn pulls JBL out, and he looks into the ring, and he waits for the ref to look, and only when the ref is looking did he bother to slap JBL. Because, you see, if you're going to do something illegal, ordinarily you want to do it behind the ref's back. But when you're looking for a DQ, you want to make sure the ref is looking. My point is, where the ref is looking is important.
Then we had Orton come out for the match with Dave, and of course Dave was not there, which the announcers were just blindsided by. And then Orton grabbed the mic and did a promo, and I realized he had to say this. I'm nitpicking again, but I realized he had to say this, but it was just wacky when he said, "I've had the same dream every night for 4 years."
Yes.
I've dreamed I've been kicking Big Dave in the head. Same dream every night. You didn't have one dream of being naked at school.
Or falling.
You didn't have one dream of falling off a cliff?
Yeah.
Seriously?
It started off fine because he pointed out it was in this very building 4 years ago I won the world title, and the next day Dave Batista and those dicks in Evolution kicked me out, and I'm waiting for revenge. Up to that point it was all fine, and then he literally said, "Every night I have gone to bed and dreamed of kicking Dave Batista in the head."
So the night before the WrestleMania 3-way, for example...
You dreamt of kicking Dave in the head.
Wrong. I had my first dream of being naked in public last night.
I don't want to hear this.
But I wasn't doing anything lewd or anything. I just had no clothes on.
I see.
The point was, in 33 years, that's the first time I ever had that dream. And apparently that's like a really common dream that people have all the time. And actually I wasn't completely nude because I had 2 books to cover my genitals and my ass.
Must have been some very small books.
I was walking somewhere.
Huh. Hoping around Seattle, you'd be very cold.
I was walking somewhere. I remember I had no clothes. I'm trying to remember this dream now.
This is not comfortable.
It's very important. I dreamt that I was somewhere and I had no clothes, but I was inside, and there was no one else inside.
Okay.
But I had to go somewhere. and I decided I was going to take my chances going there nude on foot and hope that nobody would notice that I had no clothes on.
Mm-hmm.
Failed.
Sorry, dude.
This was a dream I had, though.
I don't think I've ever had that one. The closest I've had to that, which I guess is a similar sort of vein to it, but I've had the dream.
A vein, you say? Can we move on, please?
Yes.
It's like Lance the other day talking about Jeff Hardy and saying, as long as he keeps his nose clean. Poor choice of words, both of you.
Let's move on.
So anyway, we had Punk and... Oh, no, wait. So we had...
What the hell did happen next?
We had Kelly. Miz and Morrison met with her. They were very upset about what happened last week, and they said that they had heard that Cena was her boyfriend. She said, "What? He merely asked me to be his partner, and I said, sure. Life partner?" She didn't specify. But anyway, they said they'd heard a rumor that somebody trashed her hotel room, and she looked very sad.
Well, she did lie to Kane and get Miz killed.
Well,
so what goes around comes around.
Punk and Jericho had a really fun match. So fun, in fact, that Craig marked out here because he sent me a text before I'd watched this, by the way. Craig never thinks that perhaps we're not watching the East Coast feed here in Seattle. Sending me a text saying, "Oh my God, Punk knocked out Jericho." It was, in fact, a work. But I was watching for it, and sadly it did not happen. But they had a really good match, and the finish was awesome as Punk went for a springboard. Jericho hit the code breaker in mid-move for the pin. Awesome finish. People did not like Punk. People love Jericho.
Well, to quote Michael Cole, the universe is cheering for Jericho.
The universe.
Now, you've said before that how much the term WWE Universe annoys you. It never annoyed me until that moment right there. The universe is cheering for Jericho.
The universe, everybody.
No, they are not. A very small number of people in this town are cheering for Jericho.
So then we had Michaels, JBL, Jericho, and Orton. I'm not going to go into it. That's the match next week for the shot at Cena. Michaels, Jericho, JBL, and Orton. We had Kelly storming out of the building saying she talked to Cena and he understood, but she had to go. Never saw her again. Then Santino came out and everybody chanted his name and he did a promo drawing our attention to a very special woman in the crowd, he said, Rosa Mendez, who is Milena Ruca, formerly of Florida Championship Wrestling, and now is a character who apparently travels to every WWE event nationally or internationally.
Sure.
She's got to have money.
Yeah.
So that should play into the storyline. So anyway...
She can give Sean a job.
Why not? Maybe she's working for JBL. He married Canada and was about to tell the Santa secret when Cena's music interrupted, said Santa was already there. He granted his wish, which was a tag team partner, who did end up being, in fact, Trish Stratus.
Holy crap!
She's returned after several years for I guess a one-off.
I'm assuming, yeah, she did return. Saying she has returned indicates she will stick around, which I don't think is going to happen.
Looked great. Did a fine job, all things considered. Very basic match. Sold for a while. Made Santino look like a fool. Cena got the hot tag. Ran wild, hit the FU, got the pin, everybody was happy, Raw cut out, so if I missed a big post-match angle, oh well. But that was a show, everybody.
Yes, the match was
thumbs up.
The match was really very short, and it was very simple. It was all just a point to A, get Trish out there, B, have her hit all her spots, the Matrix move, the handstand Rana, the chick kick, and then get the hell out of there, basically. And that was all it did, and it worked. And yes, Santino did not pin John Cena, so that was an okay episode of Raw.
Oh, I should play a little song here, and then we will move on, everyone.